So, let me just check. See if everything's okay. Seems to be fine. Except for me. I feel very depressed today. Enormously depressed. About 17 years ago, 16 years ago, 15 years ago, I got a dog who eventually would be my son. I'll give you an image of him so you'll get an understanding why I was so affectionate with this dog. I hope this comes through. I think that should be accurate. That is with me and Riley on a park bench overlooking Lake Ontario. I'll go down just in case I'm wrong. Then up again. And then there. And isn't he a beautiful dog? My son. Just exiting. They do that to those who disabled or whatever. They think they're being very kind and generous, which they are in a way. So the problem is dogs die, and maybe the passion that person has is dismissed with the dog's death. This is a good number of years ago. Riley is his name. Personally, I would have called him Hefner, after Hefner, who created and was an editor-in-chief of Playboy. I would have named Riley that because Beagle, and he was a beagle, a dedicated beagle, was always looking to sniff out bunnies, well, rabbits, but I called them bunnies. So you have an idea why I would have called him Hefner, or just Hef. It began when I was volunteer dog walking. It's a long time ago now, and that's where I caught Riley. In his report, it indicated he had been way down in Louisiana for 2.5 years. Riley would live till he was almost 16 years here. So I walked him, the first time I walked him, he was 2.5 years. He was a little depressed too. Could you stand existing in a crowded back truck coming from Louisiana, in this particular case, St. Catharines? I adopted him. We took him to after we paid the fees and all that, we took him to the vet, and the vet told us that he had heartworm. Can you believe that? He had heartworm down in the United States, and Heartworm apparently again in Canada. The cost for Heartworm and a dog is well over $2,000. What we managed to get, not an apology or anything, not covering the cost of which they should, you know. The Lincoln Humane Society put up $250. I was very surprised the vet down in Louisiana was $250, and our insurance, they put in $450. The policy is $500, but they will take off that $50. I can't remember the rational reason for doing that, but it was mine. And from he being 12 and a half years of age until he almost died 16 years of age, I was a hell of a lot happier. It was a good dog. I mean, a really, really good dog. Beagles are. Beagles are not exactly like Lassies. Which happened to be the first dog I had as a kid and loved too. But Lassies are sort of like dog PhDs. They're very, very bright. Riley the Beagle, sort of like other beagles, being sort of high school, and they're funny. The dogs do have a sense of humor, and Beagles does. Beagles and another breed are slightly different than the others. Beagles are hound dogs, or hunting dogs. They're constantly sniffing. I know all dogs do, but this one that like multiply it by 10. They're looking for the bunnies. He was such a joy to me. So one day, well, I originally got Riley, or adopted him. And a friend of mine had bought me a house on North Glen. And that's when I thought I should get a dog. Did two things I had not been doing for a while. I'm taking care of a dog and gardening. I've never gardened. Gardening was a punishment my father put me to in Montreal, where I had to mow the rose bushes. There was layers and layers and layers and layers, and my hands were all bloody because of it. I was like 15 or thereabouts, and you would never ever think or wish or want to wear proper gloves. I miss Riley, and I feel depressed. I'm not going to go on too long on this, because, you know, it is so emotional. But Heidi had to sell the house, and the reason why I sort of adopted the dog is I thought I would spend enough time in the house, at least for Riley's existence. And that just would not be the case. So Riley and I, a hunting dog, and a writer, ends up going to a house in Niagara on the Lake. My friend's husband owned that house, but suddenly that house disappeared too, so I had to move to another house with Riley until that place was sold too, leaving me to go back to St. Catharines and live where I'm living in an apartment. Riley did not like. No hunting dog is going to like an apartment. But no, Riley had at that age 15 years of age. And every day when I took him out for walks from the apartment, I practically had to drag him back, and I would kiss him on his head and apologize that this has happened to him. So I brought him. Now, one day, I sort of knew something was wrong. You got to keep in mind, Beagles usually only live between 12 to 14 years of age, and Riley was almost 16. I fed him really well, and he got a lot of affection. He was an excellent dog. Who couldn't but love such a dog? Well, affection relate to a dog, my son. One morning, I got up, and he was laying beside my bed, and I already started to freak out for some time now, like 2 months. It was having difficulty in movement. So I lift him up. He doesn't like being lifted up at all. No, I don't think too many dogs like that. At least definitely not hunting dogs. But he had movement with his legs, and how he got beside my bed was something. So I called the vet. This is really early in the morning, and it's like 4 a.m. or thereabouts. And I called the vet, the emergency one, made arrangements for Riley to see the vet. I did. It's so bizarre. I had to put him in his mattress and drag him through the apartment door and down all the way to the elevator, down the elevator, out the lobby, and in front of the apartment building. And then I drove up, and I take him to the vet. Now, this I have not done since I was a kid and was molested by someone, but it's a different kind of hysterical laughter. With a pedophile who, let's just say, wasn't friendly to me. When I finally got away from the whole thing, I entered, it's called laughter hysteria. That's what it is. You cannot stop. It's a burst. There's nothing funny about anything. It's just a reaction. And I started doing that with Riley, but with tears, hysterical tears. That means I could not stop. I couldn't go directly in the vet, given the problems we have right now. So I took him the assessment took Riley into the vet building, and I would go in back where there was a canvas um, and open over the back area, and the vet came out holding Riley in his body. Oh, he was not dead as of yet. She lay him on the ground, and of course, naturally, I'm kneeling beside him. This is my most treasured thing I think I've ever had. After the hemorrhages, which everyone disappeared, and all the crap I had to take, I had, would you know, something so simple, like a dog who was my son. Like I said, I think the vet laid him out on the ground, and I kneeled beside my dog. I held his head in my hand. The neph vet indicated she had injected her with a needle containing something that would calm him down. She also indicated he could not stand up, and he was not exactly there. What he was having is mini strokes. So funny that I would have a brain hemorrhage and he would have a stroke. It's almost like a family storyteller. Anyway, there came a point for the final needle. She asked whether it was okay, and I nodded my head, and she did that, and Riley was immediately dead. I can only tell you for the next long while, I could not stop crying. I would ask that this is something odd, so many corrupt, ugly, horrible humans would not understand this. They're so full of shit, you know. I owed something back to a dog who was so good to me. He had such an excellent sense of humor. He really was. And he knew how to play me up. He was very good. Afterwards, well, I told them to cremate Riley, and I assured him that he was cremated properly. I don't want him with other dogs. I have no anger or fear of other dogs. I just want it for Riley. And when I got his remains back, it came in a box form, and it looked quite nice. And inside was a bag within it a plastic container that held his powder. And in time, I took him up to my parents' cemetery, a cemetery where my mother, my father, and my elder brother so exist. And I took Riley, of course, with me. And no one was looking. No one saw me. And given that they're metal sort of brass slabs slabs or so, in which in the middle is a flower or a plant opening. I took that out and poured Riley into it. It worked out. I was really concerned about that, but it worked so well. And I introduced Riley, my son, to my mother, to my father, and elder brother. There was only one problem, and the only thing was happened to do with my older brother. Because one day when I was up at the cemetery, he said to me, with a little anger, he was getting a little pissed off with Riley, because Riley was eating all my older brother's food. I will always miss Riley a lot. Through the crap I've done, he was there. I'm not at an age where I can take on another dog. And it isn't just the artery that was clipped, but there are two arteries that run side by side. It's just not indicating, they are not bloated to serious concern as of yet. But I'm getting too old to take on the responsibility, and it is a responsibility. And if you take a dog, from a vet, and you can't deal with it, and you throw it back, that it's the human who should be shot. You're going to take a dog under your in your family or with yourself. You take care of the dog. Sometimes I'm so confused by humans, how thoughtless, ignorant people tend to be. That's not to say all. There is a percentage, I would say it's approximately 20% of human population are excellent, very bright, careful. They are, for me, they are very hard to help. After the first, or actually the third surgery, Heidi came into my life. She probably has done for me everything, including Riley, who I will always miss. So, I'm getting rather sad here, so I'm just going to close out. Thanks for listening.